So the last time I went out for this ride, my front end was vibrating quite a lot, and I had a new tire put on over the winter, so I couldn't ride, of course, to test it out. I had to put on at the local dealership. When I got it back, the yellow dot on the tire did not line up with the valve stem on the rim, which is kind of really supposed to. The theory behind it is that the heaviest part of the rim is the valve stem, and the lightest part of the tire is where the dot is. So they kind of, I guess, counterbalance each other, and your tire is pretty well balanced when that happens. And then they just got to do a small balance and throw in a couple of weights, maybe or maybe not. And I brought it back to him and I said, listen, I don't know if Buddy was new or didn't know what he was doing or what, but I said I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And you guys put this tire on the right way with the dot on the valve stem. So anyway, they were very good about it, and they agreed that it should have been anyway. He lined up the tire with the valve stem and balanced it, and when I got it back, there was 7 weights on it. It didn't seem right to me to have that much weight on the tire, but once again, benefit of the doubt, thinking maybe, you know, the tire was really off by that much. Anyway, the first ride I had out on the road with it, the handlebars were just about coming out of my hand. They were shaking violently. And I said, well, this isn't right. And of course, that was done 2 months ago at the dealership. And so I made up my own little balancer here, manual, just to see how balanced it was. Just as a little test, we'll put the tire here and we'll let it go. If this tire was balanced, it should not move at all. As you can see, there's all the weights. And then it's going back down. It will eventually settle on the bottom. You pay $35 to have a tire installed and balanced at a dealership. You at least would expect them to balance it properly, especially after bringing it back the second time. If I stop the tire here, it settles out, and there you go, heaviest part of the tire. So now I'm going to start pulling weights off and see what happens. Okay, so with all 7 weights removed from the tire, we'll give it a little nudge here. Let's see what happens. Before, the valve stem was hitting the bottom very quickly. As we can see now, the valve stem is near the top. As we can see, the valve stem is at about a 10 o'clock position, and I'll just rotate it a bit past center here. And as we can see, it's going back to that same position again. So I don't know if you can see in the video here, I did this, and there's a mark right here. This here, I gave the tire a spin and let it settle, and this is where it stopped. But this here is now where it continually stops. So I'll get rid of this mark. They had 7 weights on there. I'm going to try 3 and see what happens. Alright, so I just temporarily stuck 3 weights on here where I got my mark to. I got the middle one kind of lined up with my mark. And we'll take it off camber here now and see where it goes. If it's balanced right, it shouldn't spin at all. It's pretty steady there. And I'll go over to this position. Let it go. Tire steady there. Try it all the way on the bottom. steady, and all the way to the top. There we go. 10 o'clock position for the weights. There. That's balanced. 3 weights, not 7, and not right above the valve stem. They are actually, what would you call that? 2 o'clock past the valve stem, maybe a little better. 2:30 we'll call it. They had almost 2 ounces of weight on this rim. No need. 3 weights. Tires balanced. Just 3/4 of an ounce. So we're going to take it out on the highway again here now, and the last one was almost hopping. It was crazy. Once you got up to highway speeds and a little bit above, the front end was actually almost chattering from hopping so much. Now, I don't think the tire is at a round. It didn't look like it on the balancer. So when I checked it for, I guess, side-to-side motion and up and down motion, and all that was fine. So the only thing really it could be was the weights. Now, I don't have a fancy machine for balancing tires, and I don't know what the dealership had. At this point, not even at highway speeds. All I can say is it feels way better than it did before. Alright, let's get this thing up to speed. It's a windy day. At highway speeds, it's smooth, no vibration. At this point, last time my hands were shaking violently. So just because your dealer is bragging that they're the number one dealer in this part of the country and all that, it doesn't mean that they don't make mistakes or they can't do something wrong. I'm not knocking the dealership at all. I do think that they should have balanced my tire correctly for charging me, and I also know that they don't like balancing or changing tires that you don't buy from them. I guess the big problem here is they can say, well, if you don't buy tires from us, we're not going to balance them for you. We're not going to put them on for you. Well, to me, that's kind of shooting your business in the foot. I mean, a lot of local dealers are really wanting to do work for you and do your maintenance for you and all that. And if they're selecting what they can and can't do, then they're losing business. Anyway, I proved a few things today. Number one is, hey, my balancing machine I built worked. Works great. Tires felt super smooth and is balanced well. Number two, people make mistakes, and even though the dealership was given 2 chances, both times they kind of failed. And I guess number three is just because you're the number one dealership for that brand in this part of the country does not mean that you cannot make mistakes. Thinking that you can't make mistakes, and telling people, oh well, we're the number one dealership and so we know it's done right because we are number one, well, that's a bit of BS too, because if you can't take a bit of criticism or own up to the fact that you did something wrong or made a mistake, or there's someone has an issue, a legitimate issue, not, you know, they just because they don't like the guy or whatever, then, you know, you should own up to it. As far as I'm concerned, you know, I paid to get the tire changed. I paid to get it balanced. It was balanced wrong. It's a safety concern. I gave them 2 chances to fix it. They did not. And I fixed it on my own.